The Controlling Parent. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and this is the Family Roles series where we decode dysfunctional families and expose the control systems that keep gifted children from ever becoming who they were born to be. There is a type of parent who does not just guide, advise, or support, they dominate. They control. They dictate. And their target is not just your behavior, but your becoming. This is the controlling parent, the one who won't let you become who you were born to be. They don't just interfere in what you do. They manipulate who you are allowed to become. And they do it with precision, with strategy, with full force investment in making sure your identity never dares to drift from the blueprint they have in mind. This episode is a deep dive into how controlling parents infiltrate every dimension of your life: your education, your career, your money, your image, your self-expression, your freedom, and yes, even your soul's purpose. This is the silent war over identity that begins in childhood, and if unchecked, stretches deep into adulthood. Let me tell you a story. My story. Because I didn't just research this pattern, I lived it, I breathed it, I tried to escape it 1,000 times before I finally broke free. I used to hate my life, not just because it was hard, but because it wasn't mine. I always wanted to go to art school. That was the dream. I used to beg, cry, plead to be allowed to pursue it, but that dream didn't fit the family narrative. It wasn't practical enough, not respectable enough, not controllable enough. So I was denied, repeatedly. And when I finally caved and agreed to apply to a normal university, I picked archaeology, something that still gave me connection to myth, story, and ancient worlds. But even that wasn't acceptable. Again, I was shoved into the herd and funneled straight into a communications degree, not because I chose it, but because it was their decision, their plan, their agenda. I skipped classes. I snuck into the library not to study for their degree, but to bury myself in the mythology section. That was the only time I felt alive, surrounded by the echoes of forgotten gods and the ancient truths they tried to bury. I graduated, sure. But you can't build a real future on something that was never rooted in your truth to begin with. So what happened next? Real estate. Why? Because they flipped houses and wanted to save money they were using that was actually mine. The irony isn't even funny. It's horrific. But I went all in. Because that's who I am. When I commit fully. I built the brand. I got the office. I hit the awards. Number 1 this, top team that. On the surface, it was a success story, but on the inside, it was empty, hollow, plastic. Until one day, I flipped the script. I told the team to get lost, shut the doors, turned that office into a filming studio for 6 months, and then shut that down too. Finally, I gave myself permission to do what I always wanted: write books, make art, speak truth. I didn't pivot into a new lane, I built a whole new highway. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. This isn't just a story of rebellion, it's a story of resurrection. Because I didn't just change careers, I reclaimed identity. Controlling parents don't just micromanage you. They colonize your mind. They make you doubt your instincts. They punish you for your originality. And then they gaslight you into believing their control is protection, that their manipulation is love, that their domination is wisdom. But here's the truth. Love does not demand obedience at the cost of authenticity. Real love liberates. It does not imprison. Many of you listening know exactly what I'm talking about. You were told who you could and could not date, what you could and could not study, what kind of job was respectable, what kind of hobbies were a waste of time. You were told to be realistic, which really meant stay small. Don't dream, don't risk, don't step outside the family mold, and if you dared to rebel, they punished you, emotionally, financially, sometimes even legally. Controlling parents operate like cult leaders. They need loyalty. They demand sacrifice. And the price is always your identity. They decide which emotions are allowed. They rewrite history to suit their narrative. They shame you for the very gifts you were born to bring into this world. And worst of all, they convince you that you owe them gratitude for it. Let me be very clear. You do not owe your life to anyone who tried to steal it from you. If your parents only supported you when you complied, that wasn't support. That was manipulation. If they only gave love when you were convenient, that wasn't love. That was control. And if they punished you for trying to become your true self, that wasn't discipline. That was spiritual sabotage. This is not a phase. This is a pattern, and breaking that pattern is not betrayal. It is liberation. Controlling parents often present themselves as the authority on everything from your academic capabilities to your spiritual beliefs. They project a false certainty, silencing your inner knowing. They weaponize tradition, shame, religion, and even money to mold your decisions. Their power thrives in your silence. The moment you begin to question, resist, or break the unspoken rules, the illusion starts to crack. Let's go deeper. Trauma isn't always loud. It's not just the screaming fights or punishments. It's the quiet conditioning, the expectations layered into compliments. The constant suggestion that your dreams are silly, your goals unrealistic, your intuition misguided. That subtle erosion of identity is one of the most insidious forms of abuse. It rewires your nervous system to associate compliance with love, safety, and approval. It trains you to betray yourself to keep the peace. So what happens when you stop complying? The system collapses. The family dynamic you were holding up with your silence begins to unravel. And suddenly, you're the villain, the rebel, the selfish one. But here's the truth. The moment they call you selfish is the moment you've stopped being useful to their illusion. You've stopped being the sacrificial lamb for their emotional security. And here's what you'll notice. When you finally choose yourself, their love becomes conditional. The gifts stop. The calls get cold. The support dries up. Because their love wasn't love, it was leverage. Rebuilding begins with truth. You must name the oppression for what it is. You must stop romanticizing dysfunction. You must stop calling sacrifice noble when it's actually a cage. You must start telling your story, not to gain sympathy, but to reclaim authorship. Then come the boundaries. And not just with them, with yourself. You have to relearn the art of permission. Give yourself permission to want what you want, to feel what you feel, to do what you do, without explanation, without apology. Healing is not about becoming who they approve of. It's about becoming who you already are, underneath the fear, the programming, and the false roles you were forced to play. Let's talk about money. Because controlling parents often use finances as chains. They invest in you, but with strings attached. Help with school, help with housing, help with business, always conditional. The price? Your autonomy, your silence, your compliance. But here's the secret they never tell you. Independence is messy, but it's sacred. Even if you lose comfort, you gain clarity. Even if you lose support, you gain sovereignty, and that is priceless. Let's talk about the education system. How many of us were forced into degrees we didn't choose, paths we didn't love, told to chase stability instead of truth? The system aligned perfectly with controlling parents, rewarding conformity, punishing divergence. But here's the awakening. Learning never ends. You can always choose again, you can reinvent, you can re-educate yourself, on your own terms. Let's talk about the soul. Because this isn't just psychological, it's spiritual. When a parent controls your path, they hijack your divine assignment. They put your mission on pause. They delay your becoming. But spirit has a way of resurrecting purpose, of calling you back to the truth, no matter how far you've gone, no matter how long it's been. This is not just your life, it's your legacy. What you allow continues. What you interrupt transforms. And when you choose alignment, you don't just heal yourself. You heal the timeline. You are not here to play a role. You are here to break one. So here's your call to action. Speak your truth. Even when it shakes. Even when it's lonely. Set your boundaries. And hold them like sacred gates. Grieve the parents you never had. And then reparent yourself with grace. Reclaim your passions. The ones you buried to stay safe. Rebuild your life in your own image, not theirs. This is your turning point. This is your revolution. You were not born to be agreeable. You were born to be authentic. You were not born to be pleasing. You were born to be powerful. You were not born to be controlled. You were born to be free. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and what you just watched is part of my signature program, the Chosen One series inside School of Soul. This series is not just a course, it's a blueprint for those who know they were different from the start. The black sheep, the scapegoat, the truth teller, the cycle breaker. Inside, you'll discover the family roles playbook, the golden child, the scapegoat, the enabler, the lost child, and how to finally step out of the part you were cast in without consent. How the black sheep becomes the goat, turning rejection into radical transformation in leadership. How to break generational curses and rewrite ancestral contracts so the pain stops with you. And how to recognize and escape modern forms of spiritual and technological targeting, from gang stalking to synthetic synchronicity. This isn't just about survival. It's about awakening, about reclaiming your voice, your lineage, and your destiny as one of the chosen ones. Click the link below to access the full series now, because the role ends the moment you decide it does, and the real script begins with you.